please pray with me? Good and gracious God, open our hearts and minds to hear whatever message you would have us hear this day. For you are our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Here we go. Well, in the days of the early church, a candlelight service was held on Epiphany Eve, not on Christmas Eve. That's something that we've done in the last few hundred years. Because believers have long held a special place in their hearts for the story of the Magi traveling to see the Christ child. We read how the wise men followed the star, the great light in the sky. And we don't worry a lot about if the details are historically accurate or not, because we see that the emphasis is placed on the importance of light. Matthew's gospel speaks of the Magi, which refers to foreigners, usually from Persia, which is now modern-day Iran, who were gifted in astrology and fortune-telling and dream interpretation and probably even some magic. They were undoubtedly not kings at all, but rather advisors who served the courts of their rulers. Their translation we read today refers to them as wise men, but I suspect that in this particular instance, people would not have seen them as being wise at all, but instead really pretty foolish. Imagine they set out from their homes to follow some strange apparition in the sky. Maybe it was a star, maybe it was a planet, maybe it was a comet. We don't know. But whatever it was, these starry-eyed astrologers saw it, and they believed it to be a sign of the birth of the King of the Jews. Now, why were they interested in the birth of the King of the Jews? That's anybody's guess. Their heritage was most likely Persian, not Israelite, and their religion was probably not Jewish. So why would a mid-level government service worker travel hundreds or maybe even thousands of miles across the desert, maybe by camel, in search of a boy king of a different heritage, a different faith, in a place ruled by a totally different empire? What could have compelled these foolish wise men to search out on such a journey of the unknown? Perhaps it was that light in the sky that called them. Humans love light, don't we? Even in today's world, across the culture, we celebrate with fireworks outside and candlelight indoors. But think about it on the 4th of July, when that first firework shoots up into the air and it explodes in a brilliant light, and the whole crowd gets excited. People everywhere across our area, across our world, when they see that colorful explosion of light in all sorts of cultures, we all do the same thing. We all ooh, we all ah. What's that about? Perhaps it is that all human beings are made in the image of God. And on some level, we recognize that spark of light is God. And it is woven into the fabric of our very being. When we see brilliant lights in the sky, we somehow feel a sense of connection. If you watched on New Year's Eve during the day, they would show celebrations from different parts of the world. And whether it was in Beijing or Thailand or Germany or wherever, there were bright lights and the people would ooh and ah. Lord knows children are fascinated by light. Put a candle on a table and a child barely notices. But if you light the candle, the children's eyes brighten and they're alert and they're watching and they're waiting and you're trying to keep them safe so they don't get too close. But as adults, we don't lose our appreciation of light. We are enthralled with the light of a new moon. We hear on the news, it's going to be a blue moon, it's going to be a harvest moon, it's going to be a this moon. We are fascinated by the moon. We love to witness a night full of stars, the sky shining bright. And we are fascinated by the northern lights. Our Deborah goes anywhere to follow the northern lights, to see the sky, the brightness. Research even suggests people who are individuals that are diagnosed with total blindness are able to perceive light in a non-visual manner. I don't even know what that means, but somehow they know what light is. So to various degrees, humans are wired to connect to light. Carissa read from the prophet Isaiah, "Those who walk in darkness, arise. Shine, your light has already come. The glorious presence of God is already upon you." These ancient words acknowledge people's connection to light. And these words were written to people during the Babylonian captivity. And these people had every reason to want to give up. They had seen their town, their land, their temple, their homes reduced to rubble, and they had been forced into exile, sort of similar to today's people in Palestine. The life they had known was totally destroyed. And yet God speaks to people through these words of Isaiah, telling them to persevere, to rise, to shine, to lift up their heads that were hanging in despair and worry, and to know that God has been with them and God will continue to be with them. You and I, we can relate to this experience of being in darkness, can't we? I don't know anybody in this room, I don't know anybody in my world that hasn't lived through some sort of depressing time in their life. There are plenty of circumstances that can trigger some degree of depression within us. The loss of a loved one, the loss of a pet, the loss of our independence. Stress related to work or family issues or some difficulty in our personal relationships. Think back to when the pandemic was at its worst. That caused us to experience, to various degrees, disappointment, anxiety, depression, isolation, illness, grief. All of those things negatively impacted our mental and physical health. Lots of times we feel stuck, don't we? We feel stuck, and yet we're resistant to change. I don't like where I am, but I'm a little afraid of changing what might happen. The Magi, though, they followed the light, confident that it was going to lead them to someone who would bring change to the world. Yeah, maybe it wasn't their religion. Maybe it wasn't their land, their empire, but they knew this person was going to change the world. Like the Magi, we too desire to find hope. We want to follow the light too, don't we? But unlike the Magi, we don't saddle up our camel and follow a bright light in the sky. So how do we? How do we follow the light? We seek out God. We seek out people and places and resources that help us to be our best selves. Simply put, by following the light is to acknowledge the God-given light within you. God resides in you. And then we need to be like the Magi and be willing to embrace something new. Embrace something new. Don't be stuck in the past. So as we begin 2024, I'd like you to ask yourself, what truth is tugging at your heart? What's something you know, maybe you've been avoiding, but what truth is tugging at your heart? Where in you is courage welling up, maybe even into your bones? You're getting this feeling of courage. Is there an opportunity that is knocking at your door? Is there a love that is waiting to be explored? What area of your life do you need God's saving love to enter in? What are you waiting to say yes to? Is it a new relationship, a new job, a new home? What is it? In spite of all the reasons that you tell yourself, I should say no, what are you waiting to say yes to? Imagine if during all of our struggles with darkness, we could recall the words of Isaiah. Imagine when you wake up at 3 a.m. and your heart is broken, or when you're standing in the shower and you just want to scream. Imagine when you're struggling with your own darkness, if you could remember these words from Isaiah that say, "Rise, shine, your light has already come." We too can find strength, whether we're dealing with medical issues or family issues, or you have a difficult decision to make, or you have difficulty at work, or all the different ways that our life is complicated. Imagine that we could find strength and comfort in these ancient words. Rise, shine, your light has already come. Because even when we have to journey through darkness, we can remember that God's divine spark resides within each of us. And when we can acknowledge that, then we can find the strength to move forward. So I wonder, on this Epiphany Sunday, and in this new year of 2024, where is God calling you? Where is God nudging you? Where does God want you to be as your life unfolds? Here's what I do know. I know that we don't need to be a king or a queen. We don't need to be wise in the eyes of the world. All we have to do is keep our eyes searching for that star, that light that's going to lead us. We need to keep our ears attuned to hear the songs of angels, however those angels might appear to us. And we need to keep our heart open to the movement of the Spirit. And then, when God signals, do not be afraid to rise up and follow. For my friends, we too are people who have seen a great light. Let it be so. Amen.